G'day, it's your old mate Matthew here from the Yarnsman. Welcome to the Yarnsman podcast. Today we have the amazing man Tim Bateman talk through his journey and supporting his wife Laura with chronic illness being multiple sclerosis. If you find this triggering, do step away and check out the support resources on the website. But really hope you enjoy this episode. I certainly did. Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Yarnsman podcast. This afternoon we've got a man that needs no introduction, but because you can't see him, I guess I have to introduce him. He's a successful businessman, loves a bit of code, and he's a father and husband. Good afternoon, Tim. How are you?
Great, thanks, mate. No, it's really, really good to be here.
Do you want to add anything to that introduction, or are you happy with that?
I don't know if you said good husband or not, but I'm not too sure my wife would agree with that. I try my best. My best. But that's all pretty good. Two teenage girls, 17 and 15, so a lot of fun at the moment. It's gone from worrying about sort of whether they're going to sleep all night to whether they're going to be safe out there at midnight.
Right.
So a few changes going on at the moment.
So one of the questions we get a bit is like, I'd love to do you should do an event where it's like teaching dads how to do hair or connect with their daughter. What do you like at doing your daughter's hair? It's probably too old for that now, are they?
Honestly, I had this thing, it was a long time ago, but I saw this thing online where it was like a vacuum cleaner. And so, have you seen this?
I've seen some memes.
So, think about it like a vacuum cleaner, but without the standard end, so just the hose.
Yeah.
And you put a hair tie around the vacuum cleaner and you turn it on. And so then you just go behind the head, put the vacuum cleaner up to where the ponytail should be. It sucks all the hair in, and then you just push the hair tie off. I've got some videos from when they were young. It's actually quite good. That was my best way to get a nice tidy ponytail.
Love it. Well, there's an event idea. I don't know how about health and safety, mate. We'll jump into the questions. What have you struggled with in the last week?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question. And honestly, where I jumped to initially was like a whole heap. Like really, to be honest, and it's right from waking up in the morning. From as soon as I wake up, my alarm goes off. It's very rare that I'll bounce out of bed. It's very rare that often I'm just exhausted. And, if I'm not out of bed as soon as my alarm goes off, that's something I'll struggle with, because it's like, shit, you haven't got up and you should have got up. You should have got up then. You told yourself to get up, then you didn't. I struggle with, if Laura's frustrated at me, that sense of just, I'm letting someone down. I struggle with, if one of our franchise owners is battling with something or things aren't going as well as they should, or things that I struggle. I suppose the core thing there, the tie between all of it is what I struggle with is the sense of letting people down, letting myself down for one, and then letting other people down. I do, and I guess one thing I battle is I notice everything I don't do right. I can't help it. It's sort of like, as I said, if I'm not straight out of bed on my alarm, or I didn't train as well as I should have that morning, or if I was 3 minutes late for work, or if I was I didn't get that piece of content written properly, it's just I can't help it, but I notice everything I do wrong. and I've got better at getting past it and not dwelling on it, but I'd be lying if I said that I ignored all of it.
Yeah, that must be a real struggle. It's when you've got a lot of things going on. I mean, I certainly feel that sometimes too. How do you get comfortable with that?
I think it's always just a work in progress. Yeah. For me, it's about there's a few things. The more present you can be in a moment, the less you're dwelling on what's gone on previously, and the less you're dwelling on what's about to come. And so, getting good at being really present, you leave the past behind quite quickly. And so, I was 5 minutes late to today, and it guts me that I was 5 minutes late. But as soon as I shut the door, and I was like, look, I'm here now. I'm going to do my best. I'm here to show up and nail it. And so, it's about getting into that next moment, owning what's going on and getting into that next moment as quick as possible. Yeah.
Being present is I think when we move into the next question of what do you want to work on the next week, I think my answer has been being present for the whole time I've been answering that question. Yeah. What do you want to work on in the next week?
I found that one quite hard actually to think about, because there's lots of stuff. I don't think about it so much like what I want to work on the next week. It's all the things that I'm working on now and today. So I have a bit of a plan around things. I'm quite a planned out person. What am I gonna do? Look after myself. What am I gonna do with my family, my girls, Laura? What have I got to achieve at work this week? Am I going to be seeing any of my mates this week? So I try and sort of think about buckets of things. And so at any one stage, there's lots of different things I want to work on. I'm always working on building good relationships with my daughters and my wife. That's something that's a constant. I really want to put out good work. And so every day that looks really different. My work is very varied. It goes from podcast recording to talking about pipes in an ice bath, to changing a filter in a float tank, to talking about sales, phone calls with a franchise owner in Sakapuna, and having to like really jump in and out of very different things. There's always different challenges, but what I want to work on is I want to do all those things really well. I want to look after my health. I want to feel good every day if I can. It doesn't happen every day, but I want to. So there's never really one thing. There's just lots of different things in different buckets.
We're going to go a bit off piste, but I've got a question brewing. It's like, do you think that's hard to answer because you have a growth mindset and you have a lot going on?
Maybe. I think that's just the honest answer. There is definitely not one thing that I want to get better at this week. There's so many things that I want to do this week, and it's about, for me, it's actually like stripping it back down to what am I doing right now? What am I doing today? What's actually happening today? And am I perfect every day? There's no way I'm perfect. I've had a good day today, I'd say. I got up, I did exactly what I needed to this morning, physically, mentally, got to work, and I've had a really good morning of work, and I've been really diligent with the things I needed to do and how I'm doing them, and I've got, that sort of sets me up for the day, I guess. But yesterday wasn't like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't. And so, there's just lots of different things I want to work on. Yeah,
I think one of the things is we probably need to be better at framing our questions here, and maybe it's a thing of, when we have so much going on, is there one thing to focus on, being present? What's one important thing? And all those things are important, and I think that's maybe I struggle to answer that one wholeheartedly as well.
No, I think I'm just thinking about this, a long weekend coming up. This is an opportunity for me to, tomorrow morning, I know I'll have probably a good 5 or 6 hours of just being able to lock in and work. My girls won't get up until midday tomorrow because they don't have school. That's what they sleep in.
Teenagers,
So I know I've got a good, solid amount of work I can do tomorrow. I'm not going to be pulled in different directions because no one else is going to be calling me. And then, but then I know I've got a weekend that I want to have some good time with the girls. So I've got something teed up for my youngest on Saturday that she doesn't know about. I'm not going to talk about it on here because it's a surprise. But, I want it to be a good weekend with her, Laura and I have got a few things planned. I don't know. There's always little things. Just like all of us, we're all managing different areas of our lives, whether it be work and home and sport, if it's that, or social life, or, financial challenges, things that are going on physically or mentally. We're all managing lots of different stuff at all times. Maybe it would be good to be able to pull it into a single focus.
Yeah.
It's not quite the way my mind works, though.
Interesting. What are you proud of?
Once again, it was another one I actually really struggled to think about. I am proud of myself. I'm proud of if I look back and think, have you done everything you can? Have you given it your best? Have you actually tried your best to have a good relationship with Laura, with the girls, to create something special with O Studio, to do, to look after yourself physically, to have good relationships? Have I done all those things well? I'd say no, I haven't. But can I honestly look at myself and say, you've given it a good crack, Tim? You've given it a good crack. And I think if I can look at myself in the mirror and be like, you've given it a good crack, mate. That's I feel proud of myself for that. Like, once again, it's all about what I have, my attempt at those things. Do I have the best relationship with everyone and the best work and all that? No. But I've definitely been quite intentional with all of them to do a good job. Yeah, so I'm proud of myself.
Well, mate, that's awesome. That's awesome to say, and I really, I mean, talking before and now, it's like your mindset is fantastic. So cool. What gives you hope?
Oh, it's another hard. I find it hard. What gives me hope? I do find it really, really hard to answer that one. I mean, within myself, what gives me hope is that I feel like I've got the tools to be able to navigate what's ahead. You know, I think I know we've got lots to do. You know, once again, in all those different areas of my life, there's a lot to do, and there's lots of things I want to achieve and want to create and want to build and want to, and whether that be just something as simple as relationships or business growth. You know, I feel like I've got the tools to be able to do that, and I've got the people around me to help us get there as a team. So that gives me hope, is, you know, what I've learned, the experience I've taken, and also the people I'm working with. But also just, I think the people I'm working with and just what we see every day gives me hope that I'm working in the right area. Yeah.
This is my fourth or fifth venture, probably the third or fourth of suicide prevention stuff. I have that sense now. If I don't know the answer, I can find someone. Growing the network, I've got the tools. I've tried some shit, it didn't work out. I don't get too stuck up if it didn't work. We learn and we move on. I have that same feeling to a degree, and I think that's a superpower. Do you think?
Yeah. I think it is. It's definitely built in me over time. It's not natural. It's not a natural tendency for me as well.
Bit of time at the crease.
It is. It's exactly what it is. It's like, you know, I've written this down a number of times. Like, back yourself. Like, got to back yourself. Like, if you know, history has shown me that when I've backed myself, you know, that you'll figure it out, or you'll find the people that will help. Then that's, you know, it's you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know exactly what's going to play out when and how, and, you know, all the detail of that. It's just trust yourself. You'll figure it out.
What do you think of the word grit?
Yeah, it's a great word. Yeah, it's a great word in an area. You know, it's definitely not. There's lots of other really important words, obviously, too, but it's a crucial component to being happy, to getting good.
Do you think that goes with that? So I'm completely off script, but do you think it goes with that feeling of thinking you've got all the tools? It's sort of that grit that's actually helped you do that, because you've tried a bunch of things, you've been at the crease, you know, you've built up and you've put your best foot forward all the time.
I do. And I think it's you know, nothing worthwhile comes, you know, easy. You know,
right.
You know, it just doesn't. You know, and you know, we talk about this a bit. You know, if you could, that whole magic eraser question. You know, it's like, if you could remove all the stuff that you found hard, would you? Like, no way.
Right.
You know, some of the worst stuff I've been through is absolutely, I'm the man I am today because of that stuff. And so, you know, getting through that requires grit.
Yeah.
It requires perseverance. It requires a whole heap. And so, I mean, life is, there's all sorts. Life is amazing. Life's hard. Life's all those things. But to think that you're going to get it easy all the time, it's never going to happen. So having that real mindset to not just walk through challenges, but actually to, like, seek them out. For me, it's actually like find them, because, you know, there's a few things that happen post doing that. You know, like, one, most people don't, and so the opportunity's higher if you're the one walking towards some of that stuff that's harder. And two, even if you do fail, it's the learnings that you get off the back of those challenges set you up for the next things. So it's sort of, grit for sure.
And it's the I think I heard an analogy recently about you know, trees don't grow well without wind. Because if they have no wind, they get wind and fall over. I could be way more articulate
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that, but that example I have, it's quite visual in my head.
Yes.
And so it's let's try some hard shit and let's do it early on.
Yeah.
Let's try those hard things, because once you achieve or understand it, everything kind of comes easier after that.
Yeah, and it's the principle of that, the principle of hard things, because hard things for everyone's quite different. Like a hard thing could be sitting down for 20 minutes by yourself, focusing on your breathing. That's hard for a lot of people, but if you can't be with your thoughts and yourself for 20 minutes, then I think you should be doing that more.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? For some things, for some people, hard things is really like pushing yourself physically, and for other people, that's not hard. That's one thing I think we don't understand really, is for a lot of people, we're actually just working hard physically, day-to-day training, that's easy. So find something that is going to be a challenge. That might be having difficult conversations. That might be, learning something new. But I just think the principle of doing hard things is a good thing to find.
Was it AJ Hackett or Possum Ball? I might be getting my quotes mixed up, but one of them said you should do something every day that scares the shit out of you.
Yeah.
I know it was so Possum Ball said rallying was the most fun you can have with your pants off. Sorry.
That's good.
So anyway, so jumping into the kind of the meatier stuff, I wanted to talk about your wife's diagnosis and kind of how you handled that, how you supported the family, and kind of a deeper dive. When we look at mental health, sure, we have a lot of people sharing their own challenges, but there's a big thing of how do you support someone, and kind of from that perspective. So, do you want to share that journey?
Absolutely. It's a big journey, so I'll try and keep it reasonably concise. But so Laura and I got together young, so we were together at 15. We had our first daughter at 19. 1921 is when we had our two girls, and so we had kids young. We did everything early. When I was 18, I was studying full time. I was playing for the Crusaders, and we're just about to have Shiloh, and so I definitely was chucking myself in the deep end in all sorts of different areas. Laura's sort of identity was wrapped up in her own physical sort of ability as well. She was a hockey player, loved everything about the sport, was playing sort of national level, and incredible sort of runner. And so that was sort of who we were together. And when she was 23, so when just after Miley was born, so the girls were 3 and 1, she was just started having random symptoms. Lost her vision, lost use of one of her arms, lost control of her bladder. Went from being able to, I'd be too scared to go for a run with her, to she couldn't run 200 meters. And it was just all happening quite quickly over the period of about a year of all sorts of stuff going on. It was So 3 and 1 when things started, and then when the girls were probably 6 and 4 is when we'd sort of got to understanding what it really was, and a diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And it was brutal. Like, those few years were really brutal on Laura, obviously, on the girls as well, but also just on me. It was a real challenge. We were away from home, so we didn't have any real support around us, and so I felt like I was doing all sorts of different stuff, trying to be the provider, trying to perform well on the field, but really having to lean into everything at home a lot more than probably was normal. And it was tough. Like, if you overlay Laura's health with my rugby career, it's like a mirror. When she was not well, my performances were really poor, and when she was good, my performances were pretty good. And it just always used to frustrate the hell out of me. It's like, why can't I just leave this shit at home? Why can't I be real present at training? Why can't I be real present on the field? And it wasn't as if I was thinking about Laura while I was at training, or thinking about Laura while I was on the field, but it was just like chipping away at me. It was eating away at my confidence and stuff. And so just felt, I don't know, just didn't feel like strong and healthy and happy and ready to just rip in, which you want to be doing when you're trying to perform on a big stage. And so it was a brutal time, but at the same time, I look back now and huge amounts of learnings. Our family became really tight. Laura got a stem cell transplant in Singapore, which was designed to sort of halt the progression of the illness. and they said to her if she doesn't relapse for 2 years, she may not relapse again, and she hasn't relapsed now since then, which was 2015. So
Sure.
we're talking sort of 9 years. Still got all the lasting damage from the stuff that was happening prior, and things will come and go depending on her stress levels, but there hasn't been any like new onset of symptoms, which, you know, it's always a bit of a touch wood sort of scenario because there's no guarantee that it won't come back. So yeah, that sort of got us into, you know, that all that stuff really led us to what we do now too. So you know, if I asked Laura the Magic Eraser question, she would say I'd raise it in a heartbeat because it's changed her whole life. You know, it really has. It's a chronic illness, and she still has battles with it. So it sucks, and sucks for the girls. But you know, you just make the most of it. You know, there's a lot of people that are battling with a lot of different stuff.
I want to take a step back. I think I'd listened on your podcast telling the story, and there was a particular time, was it a pre-season training camp, and you hit a bit of a wall, and the team got behind you. Can you kind of share that? Was that a rock bottom moment or a learning experience, whatever you want to call it?
It was just I don't know what it was. If it was a rock bottom moment, maybe I'm not too sure. But yeah, it was the Hurricanes at the time, and right in the throes of the battle, you know, and just, you know, I as I sort of touched on at the start of this episode, I really want to do things well, and I felt like I wasn't doing anything well anywhere really, and everything was sort of felt like it was falling apart, and we were on it was like an army camp, effectively pre-season. They turned up at 3:00 in the afternoon. We just thought we were turning up for a normal training, and all of a sudden we're like just working our asses off, carrying tyres, all sorts. Anyway, we worked all through the night, and the last thing was like setting up a tent at like 8 in the morning. We did like essays at 4 in the morning and all sorts. It was a full on
crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but it was like just mentally and physically exhausting. Set up this tent at 8 in the morning to finish that part of the exercise. Had 2 hours sleep, and then we were into lots more exercise type stuff. And then at about 1:00 that afternoon, we did like this 360 feedback stuff. So I'm like operating on obviously little sleep, absolutely mentally and physically fatigued, and carrying this big emotional burden in the background. And so part of the exercise was like positive feedback and negative feedback on things that, you know, and we were sitting in this circle. Well, not a circle, it was just around a big table, 15 of us, players and coaches, different groups, and these guys were going around the circle just like giving me positive feedback. And it was just like, you know, if you looked at yourself the way we looked at you, that we just wish that you could do that. It was that type of stuff, and it was just like, it was like I had never experienced anything like that before, and just it was like a punch between the face. It was pretty embarrassing. I just broke down really, and once again, it was all just receiving all these kind words of like, you're doing all right, mate. You know, we understand what's going on, and we've got you back. You know, it was all that. It was just like far out. Like, and I thought I was like pretty good at like keeping it all hidden away and not, you know, talking about it with anyone ever. And yet they all could see it. They could see it in me. So it was pretty interesting.
I mean, that's a really special moment. What year was that, if you don't mind me asking?
That would have been 2000. I can't remember. Maybe 13 or 14, something like that. Yeah.
Because you think about, mentality or perceptions of a rugby club, of a rugby team, and things like that. And I went to boarding school, and it was like we never talked about that. Do you think it was what's the question there? Do you think that was a symptom of the time, or just the environment you're in?
I think it was probably, I mean, I'd love to think it was, you know, that all sort of teams for understanding the importance of that stuff. Like, it's just building like real, genuine connections with one another, you know, like, for a team to perform well, you need to feel like the person standing either side of you has got your back and absolutely understands who you are, what you're about, and I'm here for you. You know, like, if you can build a connection like that within a group, it's pretty powerful. And so, Mark Hammett, who was he coached at the time, and Clark Laidlaw is now the head coach of the Hurricanes now. He was the assistant, and Alama Adamia as well. but they were quite forward thinking in the way they wanted to do it. And, you know, there's that combination of doing something tough together and being honest with one another and building that real sense of, I know you and I'm here for you. And so it was pretty special. And I think about people that came in and around that time as like first year players. It was like Bowden Barrett, TJ Perenara, Julian Savia, Artie was the year after. You know, Jeff took, like, there was a huge, like, Brad Shields, like an influx of new players into the Hurricanes environment. And that's what they met with when that was their first step in. Prior to that, by all accounts, it was quite different. The culture was extremely talented. It didn't quite have that same sort of real deep care and connection and work, and stuff. And so that was a big part. Conrad Smith and Victor Vito and Jeremy Thrush, Dane Coles, they were the guys that were building that. You know, they were. It was a pretty awesome group. And then they went on and won it. You know, in 2015 they lost the final. 2016 they won it, and it's the first time the Hurricanes have won it. You look back at their team for a long period of time. A lot of them would say that work that was done over those sort of 3 or 4 years, like around building a connection, what it took to be a professional, what it took to be a great team. You know, those things are embedded in that culture now. Yeah.
Fantastic, and I feel like I say fantastic too much, but that really is.
That's fine.
I feel like we could have a lot of conversation around that of building genuine connection, because it's what we're about at the Yarnsman. Jumping back into your relationship with Laura and the family and supporting that, how did you take that experience home?
I probably didn't even share it, probably. You know, like, Laura was dealing with enough stuff, you know, and that's the way I sort of looked at it. I mean, maybe that's not the right way to look at it, probably isn't the right way to look at it, but I don't know. I'm a big believer that a relationship doesn't need to give you everything. You know, like, the reality is Laura can't give me everything I need. I can't give Laura everything she needs. And so it's about what, you know, how can we support one another the best, you know? And so, like, for me, I may have those conversations with other people. And so I think sharing it, like, not keeping it all in, but having avenues that you can get support. Like, I don't go and talk to Laura about everything that's going on in the business. And I'm sure she doesn't tell me everything about everything that's going on for her. It's like, how can we really support one another? Maybe that's not the right way to look at it in a relationship. It should be completely, you understand everything about one another and you really know where it's at. But I don't know, maybe it's because of Laura's illness that I sort of I've sheltered her a little bit from a lot of the challenges. Because she's got enough challenges on her plate. Once again, that might not be the right way to do it. Even talking about it out loud has made me think, oh, maybe I should.
It's what's worked for you, and I guess really, where I was going with this is, like, you'd had an experience where you'd felt immense connection and support. I'll just summarise that experience for you in those words. And I wondered if by that experience, did you take away and, you know, replicate that experience anywhere else? It doesn't have to just be in your relationship of giving honest, supportive feedback. Tell me if I'm wrong there.
A good team culture is something that I really think is fundamental to success, you know, of any organisation. I think it's something the Crusaders, you know, it's a big part of what they did through those sort of years that I was involved as well. And a big part of the reason why I think they were so successful, something that I really think about with business, with our team, is that genuine connection and care. That sort of combination of pressure and care. You know, it can't be all care and no pressure. It can't be all pressure and no care. It's got to be balanced one another. And I don't know if we do it well all the time, but we definitely try our best. Yeah.
Right, so one of the component I really wanted to dive into a bit more was the search for a treatment. You talked about the stem cells in Singapore, and really you mustn't have taken a diagnosis of one treatment. You've gone on a curious journey. Can you talk a bit more around that?
Yeah, Laura was on medication here in New Zealand. It wasn't working well for us, and as I said, she was progressing pretty quickly, relapsing very regularly. We did a bit of our own research and saw what was going on internationally in the space. We talked to our neurologists here in New Zealand. They advised against it. The reason they advised against it was because there was a risk of death really associated with it that they thought was too high. But for us, it was a risk worth taking. It was a small risk of fatality, very small, and one that we thought was worth the risk. And so, yeah, they took healthy stem cells out of her bone marrow, blasted her with chemotherapy, effectively to kill her immune system. Went into isolation for 5 weeks, and then re-entered the stem cells to grow a new immune system from scratch. Was the whole goal of the procedure, and hopefully this new immune system doesn't have that same, it's attacking her own nervous system, or the sheath around her nerves was what MS is. And so the new immune system at this stage hasn't started attacking her nervous system. So it's been a bit of a success. But as I say, in that time when she's got no defences, if she'd been subject to any sort of bug, then she'd be, it could be pretty dangerous.
Wow. That's an amazing story, and to, I suppose, have the curiosity and ability to go and do that, right? Was there any other options on the table? Was that the clear one? I suppose, yeah.
There were a couple of options, nothing really that we felt was up to what we needed, and it was a massive procedure for Laura, huge. Obviously extremely expensive, time, money, ruined her body, and so it was full on. So it was a long road back to recovery, but yeah, we're certainly happy we went down that route.
Cool. What advice would you have for anyone in a similar position, both, looking after themselves and supporting anyone through a scenario like this?
I think, obviously you've got to go through the standard channels, try and seek experts, opinions on what they recommend. I think that's step one. You shouldn't do everything yourself, that's certainly for sure. But I also think alongside that, have a look around, see what else there is out there to potentially support that. I think alongside the, what you should actually physically do for anything is having good people around you to help you through or manage that process. Is super important, because it is hard. It's hard for all sorts of different types of reasons. That I think knowing you're not alone with it. There's so many people, as I said before, that are managing all sorts of stuff, and so I think we had Josh Coleman on our podcast the other day, and he I don't know if you know Josh.
Well, does it potentially as a future Yarnsman speaker, if we could make it work?
Oh mate, if you get an opportunity to speak with him, he's incredible. He really is incredible. Going from, he was a high performance athlete, going to the Commonwealth Games, top runner in New Zealand, diagnosed with leukemia. Ruined him. And then went into remission. Got to Everest Base Camp and became a professional skydiver, and just a real new sense of living again. And then it hit him again and got way worse, and effectively went through that was the start of 5 years of treatment up in Melbourne, back and forth, and it's absolutely ruined his body and mind and stuff. He's had multiple heart attacks. He's had we've been through the absolute ringer, like no one I've ever heard of before. It's like asking him, it's like, how, what got you through that? That was, I really wanted to know what he thought, and what he spoke about was understanding perspective, and he talked about Viktor Frankl, the Man's Search for Meaning book. It's an incredible book. He talks about his struggle through Auschwitz and losing his wife and kids and stuff, and having meaning was a big thing around getting himself through. But for Josh, in the throes of the horrors that he was going through, reading and understanding that there's other people that have done this harder than you, and if they can do it, you can do it too, was the essence of it. And so getting a bit of perspective, and then coming out the other side almost, seeing these kids in India with nothing, with massive big smiles on their faces, and thinking, shit, it's about, you can adjust your perspective to what you want. He's just happy to be alive, living, breathing. And so he's a top man.
I love that. Tim, thank you so much for coming to our high-tech podcasting studio. Love the yarn. Thank you for sharing your story, and we get to do it all again in a couple of weeks.
Oh mate, no, it's great. You're doing some fantastic work. It's a real honour to be in here, and looking forward to ripping into live show, you know, peppering the audience with some questions because, you know, I want to figure out a little bit more about, you know, what's going on for them too.
Yeah, cool. Great. Thank you very much.
Awesome.